Geography talks about the Earth, description, and all that it means. Physical geography is the one that deals with the studies of natural phenomena, that is, those not involved with human activity, such as hurricanes, earthquakes, tsunamis, storms, or tornadoes. Also, we have the human geography, that is the one that studies societies and how the occupation of territory affects them and the environment. It supports on sciences such as anthropology, that is the one that studies the biological and social evolution of the human being, and ethnography, which examines the cultural characteristics of society, including its distribution. Biological geography is the one that specializes in the flora and fauna distribution and their relationship with the environment in which they are present, and it's related to sciences such as botany, which studies the plants, their distribution and relation with the environment, and zoology, which work field is the distribution of animals and their relation with their habitat. Changing to the natural and cultural landscape, natural landscape is the one that has not been modified by human actions. And the cultural landscape is the one that has been created or changed by the people. The geographical phenomena are temporary processes occurring on the Earth's surface, including rains, volcanic eruptions, earthquakes, etc. The climate is the main state of the atmosphere in a given Earth's zone. The flora is the plant population in a location, and the fauna is the animal population that dwells in a certain place. Since the adaptation of human groups to the landscape, communication became necessary to exchange goods, people, and products, modifying in that way the natural landscape. So the communication is a vital exchange of information or things. Continuing with another topic, the latitude is the angular measure from 0 to 90 that locates an exact place from the equator. The equator is the line that divides the Earth into northern and southern. The longitude is an angular measure from 0 to 180 grades that locates any point starting from the Greenwich meridian towards the east or the west. And the altitude is the height from the mean sea level to any point on the Earth's surface. Also, the Greenwich meridian is a line of longitude defined to be 0. To continue, here's another topic that is based on the universe, where we can find things such as the galaxies that are made of a huge amount of stars gathered in groups. And there are three types of them that we know, such as the spiral shaped one that be, may be the most frequent type in the universe, and they have the shape of a world. Also, we know the elliptic shape, and they are not as common as the spiral ones. Finally, we have the irregular shaped ones that do not have an specific shape. Their most distinctive characteristics is that they look chaotic and undefined. They are the youngest of the universe and are formed by blue and white stars. that contain big amounts of cosmic gas and dust, and therefore they are still forming new stars.
The Earth layers are the nucleus, which is the innermost layer, and it is divided into two, the internal nucleus and the external nucleus. The next layer is the mantle. It is the intermediate zone, and it is also divided into two zones, the lower and the upper mantle, where magma can be found. The crust is the tiniest and has two types, the oceanic crust and the continental crust. The lithosphere is formed by the crust and the upper mantle. The expansion zones are the zones where the tectonic plates are being separated. When tectonic plates move, they can cause earthquakes and volcans to explode. It has also created the mountains, the plateaus, and their plains, causing this the seismicity and the volcanism. The atmosphere is mainly composed by nitrogen, 78%, and oxygen, the 21%. Some of its physical properties are its mobility, color, compressibility, expansibility, and its diathermancy. The atmosphere has 5 layers. The troposphere, the most interior layer, is where the atmospheric phenomena occur. The stratosphere, where the airplanes fly. The mesosphere, in which the matter is born and luminescent nocturnal clouds can be seen. The thermosphere, also called ionosphere, where auroras form, at the exosphere, where the artificial satellites orbit. The atmospheric temperature can be affected by the latitude, the altitude, the distance from the sea, the seasons, the cloudiness, and the humidity. Earth is divided into 2 cold zones, the polar zones, 2 template zones, the temperate zones, and a warm zone, the torrid zone. Also, the most widely used climate classification is the Köppen climate classification.
Hydrosphere, a layer of earth structure which covers 70% of planet's surface. The remaining 30% is land. Physical properties: 3 different states of matter of Earth's surface: solid, liquid, and gas. Water cycle: evaporation, the water becomes vapor. Next, condensation, when the water vapor is the atmosphere, forms clouds. Then precipitation, the solid water starts to rain. Next, starts to run off and fill lakes and rivers. And finally, the infiltration. Human water cycle are divided in supply, purification, distribution, consumption, sewer, treatment, and finally discharge. Seawater: 97% of the water is in oceans, which are large bodies of water stored in the depression of the Earth's crust. Sea: division of the ocean that is enclosed or partly enclosed by land. There are 2 types of sea: mainly enclosed seas and partly enclosed seas. Ocean currents are large horizontal displacement of salt water masses that across the ocean. Physical geography: the discipline that studies the Earth's surface in its natural or physical appearance. Population geography: branch of human that studies the distribution of the population and its relationship with the physical and social aspects. Economical geography: science that allows us to understand the process of goods or service trading intended for human satisfaction. Globalization is an economic process that comprises the elements of technology, culture, and society at a large scale. Human landscape, allowing us to understand how and where production processes are established. Anthropology, the evolution of the human being both biologically and culturally. Political geography, a branch of geography that deals with human governments, the boundaries and subdivision of political units. Demography, understand the characteristic of social geographical distribution, immigration, emigration, birth or death rates. Colonial geography, the power of geographical areas which dominate politically, socially, and economically, looking for quick wealth and the control and exploitation and of natural and human resources. Economy studies the products and services that meet our needs, such as technology consumption.
Ecology is the science that studies living things and their relationship with its environment, which is their habitat. Ecology is a holistic and interdisciplinary science. It is holistic because it integrates all branches of biology, such as botany, zoology, physiology, anatomy, microbiology, genetics, amongst others, and interdisciplinary, because it requires other sciences such as physics, chemistry, mathematics, geography, and economy to complement its studies and objectives. Branches of ecology are as follows: autoecology, which analyzes how an organism changes its environment and is affected by it; synecology, which studies the community and their environment that surrounds within a geographical area; population ecology, which studies the population in terms of its environment and relationship with other populations; and finally, ecosystem ecology, which deals with mass and energy flows between biotic and abiotic factors in an ecosystem. The study of ecology is vital for the understanding and preservation of our planet. Ecology uses a scientific method, which has 4 steps: observe and measure phenomena or characterization, then form a hypothesis, then experiment, and finally, make conclusions. The environment is a global system consisting of natural and artificial elements of physical, biological, chemical, and social-cultural nature, constantly modified by human or nature action, and that governs the existence of development of life. An ecosystem is made up of biotic factors, which are anything that is alive, such as producers, consumers, decomposers, animals and plants alike, and abiotic factors, which is anything that is not alive, such as chemical components in an ecosystem, light, water, minerals, and all of that. And sometimes they can also be composed by cultural factors, which are those that are a product of humankind, such as a city or a civilization. A set of organisms of the same species occupying a given area and performing gene exchange is called a population. Populations are affected by food availability or quality, habitat change, and other factors. Populations have properties which are called emergent properties. These properties describe and distinguish populations. The properties are size, which is the number of organisms in a population; density, which is how close individuals are to one another; distribution pattern refers to the organisms in a population, which can be aggregated, which is when populations form groups like lions or zebras. It can also be random, which are randomly distributed in a territory. This is typical in low-density populations or in those that have dangerous species. And finally, it can be uniform, which are regular patterns, which usually occurs in areas with crops. Other emergent properties are demographic parameters. They are the parameters that lead to numerical changes in populations. There are 4 kinds of demographic parameters. First, the birth rate, which indicates how many individuals are born as a consequence of reproduction and how often. Then we have the mortality rate, which is the number of individuals who die in a given time. Then we have the immigration rate, which is the number of individuals that join the community, and emigration rate, which measures the number of individuals that move to another population, that is to say, that leave the current population. The population growth rate is measured as a result of births, deaths, immigration, and emigration that affect the size of the population changing over time. Population structure is a properly indicated configuration of population, as populations are made up of individuals of different types. Population structure describes how many there are of each type. There are factors, either biotic or abiotic, which will regulate the growth of populations, making them maintain a certain number of individuals, so that it should not grow unlimitedly. Abiotic factors are those that prevent populations from overgrowing, either reducing their reproductive capacity or dying. This abiotic condition can be very intense and are considered natural disasters because they can have drastic effects on populations. Some examples would include fire, hurricane, earthquakes, floods, landslides, amongst others. And then we have biotic factors. These factors are those factors that regulate the size of population, allowing population growth when population density is low and limiting it when it is high. This type is called density-dependent factors, and there are 5 density-dependent factors. The first one is competition, which occurs between organisms that require the same resources, which are limited. Then we have predation, in which an organism feeds on another. This benefits only one species, of course, the predator, and affects the other one, the prey. Then we have mutualism, which is when organisms of different species benefit mutually when interacting. An example of this could be the bee and the flower, which benefit from each other. Then we have amensalism, in which one member is affected negatively. For example, a plant that feeds on other plants. And then we have commensalism, in which one species is benefited in some way, such as remoras that lives around shore. Communities are a set of population of different species that interact and share a common point in space that is called a habitat. A habitat is a place of appropriate conditions for life of an organism, plant or animal species or community. Organisms that make communities range from bacteria, fungi, plants, animals, and even humans. The communities are classified into biomes, which are ecological communities which dominate a certain ecosystem. Each community has a different characteristics from another, so that we can study and classify using emergent properties, of which the most important are the following. The species richness, the amount of number of species forming a community, although it is almost impossible to recognize this because no scientist has ever been able to develop a list of the number of different species within a community. The composition, the set of species that make up a community, which lets us know which species are present. And finally, the structure, which refers to the way a community is organized, and they can be organized as follows. First, we have horizontal stratification, which indicates the distribution of organisms on Earth's surface, which varies due to the changes in topography, altitude, and latitude. Then we have vertical stratification, differential distribution of organisms including on the ground, water, or sky, and they can be lower stratum, middle stratum, and upper stratum. Then we have physiognomy, which is the visual aspect of species, which depends on the morphological characteristics of every species. Then we have diversity. As the name implies, it is the variety of individuals that make up the community. And finally, we have successional status. It is the development characteristics and recovery process after a community disturbance. Successional dynamics are changes occurring in the structure of a community over time. This sequence starts with a disturbance. This event damages or even kills the organisms in a community. It swipes away the community and these open spaces are occupied by new organisms. These are large-scale disturbances, and these disturbances can be caused by natural phenomena such as earthquakes, hurricanes, volcanic eruptions, forest fires, etc. Or they can be associated with human activities such as pollution. A rare large-scale disturbance is called a catastrophe. When the disturbance is severe and communities and even the soil disappear, it is called a primary succession. A tsunami or volcanic eruptions are a good example of this. In this succession type, the soil and community recovery are very slow, since soil formation is a natural process that takes a lot of time, centuries or even thousands of years. When the disturbance is less intense, it does not remove all the soil organisms and maintains many of its properties, favoring plant regeneration, then it is called a secondary succession. For example, a forest fire or flood. In this sequence, the regeneration of vegetation and wildlife is much faster than the primary because the soil did not lose their properties.